Well, hi there, Sax Gourmet fans. It's Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Must be time for the Sax Gourmet Signature Seminar. And I am Steve Goodson. I am the resident visionary here at Sax Gourmet Products. And I am speaking to you from our executive offices. Hello, Bjorn. We're located in the Garden District of Old New Orleans, and we're in Sector R. So, in talking to a number of my clients and friends and getting a little feedback from people I trust, there's a topic that really needs addressing. And I want you to understand that the reason we're going to address this topic, which is getting your horn repadded and the conversation you need to have with the technician who's doing it, is not in any way intended to reflect badly on the skill of the technician. We're not going to talk about anything today that requires exotic materials, specialized tools. Everything I'm going to cover with you can be done by any competent saxophone shop. So let's talk about this. Just like your automobile has to have new set of tires every few years, your saxophone's got to have a new set of pads. It's true there are certain things you can do to make your pads last longer, and I think we've covered that in a previous seminar, but that's not really our topic tonight. Casey Ray, glad to have you with me. I feel better now. But at any rate, before you get your horn repadded, you and the person that is going to do it, and I'm not talking about necessarily the person at the counter, I'm talking about the person that is going to do it, need to sit down and talk about it, and talk about what they're going to do and what you want done. After all, it's your horn, and what can we do to make this as good a job as is humanly possible. So let's start here with this. Captain Don, glad to have you with us. If you look at your saxophone, we want to first examine all the points of metal-to-metal contact or anything that's any keys have a lot of play in them, and maybe write that down, that the A key is not seating well because it moves from side to side. I appreciate those likes. Anybody who wants to like this or share it is welcome to do so. Now, when we get the horn apart, and maybe, let's take a key off or so and look, and you'll see a ring that has been formed by that pad sitting down on a tone hole. Well, take a look at where that ring is. Is it centered on the pad? If not, write that down. Because something that's very important is all of the keys, to the extent that it is possible, should be centered over their respective tone holes. All right, now here's another thing you need to observe on the current condition, and maybe Gail, one of my old college pals here, watching us, and I'm so honored. She's a professor emeritus now and living on an island, living a good life. I still love you, baby. But anyway, here's the thing. Observe where the key foot and the adjusting bar on both the upper and lower stack contact each other, and understand there what's going on. Is there a big old thick hunk of cork or felt or something else? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, and we're going to cover this now in a minute, is that metal-to-metal contact. Go ahead and take that old cork off. It ought to be fine. God, there's another woman breaking my heart for the last, long time. Shelley Krause Schuler. Thank you for tuning in. But anyway, that contact ought to be metal-to-metal and it's sealed. And if it's not, it's up to the technician to adjust it. Now, let's talk about these adjustments that the technician is going to do to the keys. as I said, it is most important that that key cup be centered to the extent that's humanly possible over the tone hole. Now, you can adjust that centering. Raul, listening to your station today, you can take that rib that goes over to the center of the key cup and then attaches to the tube. You can bend that a little bit and adjust that centering. Jane Lindsay, oh, I'm honored you're here too. But at any rate, we got a lot of pretty girls tuning in, and I appreciate that. I do, because I like pretty girls. Now, don't y'all start a petition or anything, but I do like pretty girls, and I admit it. Now, but anyway, you can bend that rib a little bit from side to side. Now, I've got an excellent set of levers to do just that I bought from Free Tool many, many years ago, and they do a great job. But it is up to you to make sure the cup is not only centered, but when that cup is all the way down, that cup is level. And if it's not level, if that cup's bent a little bit or crazy from side to side, put it on your jeweler's anvil, take a soft rubber-headed hammer, and tap that boy, and get it flat. It's got to be dead flat. If there are any dents in the cup, this is the time to be removing them. All right, so we see what's going to be involved now in our metal-to-metal contacts, and this is critical. Now, at the same time, we want to make sure that there is no extra slop in those keys where we may have to swedge it. In other words, extrude the metal on either end of the key where it's just a little bit longer. Eric Satterley, you honor me. But the fact of the matter is that swedging may not be necessary. Make sure that the posts are in perfect alignment. And that's a no-brainer. Just take all the keys off, take that long rod, run it through the post, and see if you have to force it to side on one or the other. Shouldn't have to do that. Now, I read in one of the repair groups that I take, this was not one of mine, where there was a knucklehead talking about, well, you can't ever, it's not possible to get the key cups flat up against that tone hole. Come on down to New Orleans, brah. I'll show you how it's done. This is not rocket science. You just got to take your time and be careful. All right, so now we've got our cup aligned. We've got the metal to metal on the adjusting bar is working like it ought to. Everything's good. Now, it's time to start talking about what kind of pads are we going to put in this horn. Saxophone pads from different manufacturers are all made essentially the same way. You have a back, usually made of cardboard. Some manufacturers use a little heavier material. Some of them, next you have the felt, and the felt is the two kinds of felt used, either pressed felt, where you just got random fibers and they put it down under extreme pressure, and out comes the felt. And then you have woven felt, where everything is, square. Yeah, it's just like weaving a piece of cloth. Now, I prefer woven felt because you can cut it more precisely and the shoulders stay square. And then you have, well, you could have something else. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But then you have the leather. Now, there are three main types of leather that are used in saxophone pads. The overwhelming majority of saxophone pads use sheepskin. It's been used as long as there have been saxophones, and it does pretty well. But let me tell you this, if you get a sheepskin pad, I don't care who made it, and they put that silicone waterproofing all over it, and it'll be shiny, then let me tell you something. It's going to stick. And it's going to have that kissing sound when it releases from the cup. You don't want that. There's better ways to do that, and I'm going to tell you what it is. All right, then you have goatskin pads. Now, I used goatskin pads for many, many years. And they're still, I got a good customer from down in Houston, Texas. Guy plays 6 nights a week, and I repadded his Con 10M at least 15 years ago. I saw him recently. He got those goatskin pads in it, and those pads are hard as a rock, but that horn sealed perfectly. And there's no visible signs of, a lot of wear on them. They hadn't cut through anything. But the goatskin, the hide of an old billy goat is kind of grainy. So you have to take great care to iron it smooth. At any rate, what you got to do is, if you're going to use goatskin pad, it's a very durable leather, you got to be sure that it's smooth as a baby's bottom. That's essential. Now, I prefer kangaroo leather, and here's why. Kangaroo leather is the softest leather on the planet, and kangaroo also does not stick. Now, the hide of a kangaroo, all the hides that you get to make pads from, or you get for any reason, kangaroo, they're all wild-grown kangaroos. So nobody's farming kangaroos is what I'm saying. The kangaroo is very soft. You won't get a lot of pad noise except that sound of a vacuum when that thing cleans up and all that. Peggy, I want you to say hello to my good friend John Celestine, because he knows I love him. I know you see him from time to time. But at any rate, so here's some things you can do. Now, I like extremely firm pads. I do. They're a little harder to install and work with, but the end result is permanent. So how do we go about doing that? Well, Colonel Sanders never told you, what the 11 herbs and spices were, and I'm not going to tell you everything I know about how to make a pad as firm as possible on the manufacturing end, but I will say this. If you'll take that nice woven felt and give it a very light spritz with some epoxy, it'll stabilize that felt. Now, don't put too much on there, because then it'll be hard. And the purpose of the felt is to provide a little cushion, but it will stabilize it. Now, I told you there was something we could put in between the leather and the felt. Back when I was using goatskin pads, I was having them made to my specification by a well-known pad maker. They were custom made for me. Nobody else had them. And we put a layer of brass foil. I mean, it's thin as a piece of paper, but we put a layer of brass foil in between the leather and the felt. And what did that do? Sealed it up airtight, because you can't get any air forced through a sheet of brass. Now, there's other ways to do that. Now, to accomplish the same thing, I prefer when the backside of the leather is accessible, spray it very lightly with some vinyl, very lightly. That'll seal it up. Now, I do know that my good friends up at Music Medic are making what they call a Rue Extreme pad. And this pad has 2 layers of leather. Jason Mingeldorf, former employee, and he is such a master player. I can't begin to tell you what a master player Jason Mingeldorf is and what a fine man he is. And he's another Alabama boy. Always glad to have an Alabama posse watching here. So at any rate, and there's Donna Schwartz, one of the great teachers here in the United States. But anyway, the thing is to fix that pad in such a fashion that there is no way that any air can get through the pad. Okay, I'm going to tell you how to avoid getting stuff around the pad to get all the leaks stopped. But as far as getting stuff through the pad, we can fix that by doing what I just talked about. Now, I do recommend the kangaroo. I really do, and I think once you try it, you will not go to anything else. It's wonderful stuff, and kangaroo leather is significantly different because remember that a kangaroo is a marsupial, and I'm a mammal, so our hide's different. Chad, I'm gonna cover that in a minute. Now, we decided what kind of pad we wanted to use, and now the next thing we want to do is talk about resonators. And maybe this is the point where I ought to duck out of here and see, before everybody says, well, you can only use plastic resonators, you only use that, and all these experts on the internet, y'all read all the stuff they print. These experts will tell you all about resonators. Now they all down in Mama's basement, and some of those experts that you're reading are old enough to shave. They really are, or at least will be soon. So what the hell are you doing? Listen, talk to somebody that manufactures different resonators, try them all, and that would be me and some other people. Now, I'm not the only one, but we've experimented with a lot of resonators. And I will tell you that it is my belief that the resonator should be as large as humanly possible. In other words, if I can get it out to the edges of the tone hole, that's the way I want it. If you look at one of my personal horns, that's the way it is. Now, why would I want to do that? Because leather, no matter which leather we have selected, whatever kind of leather you use, really acts as a sponge, and it absorbs energy out of the wave we're trying to get through our horn. What we want the resonator to do is to reflect that energy back into the body tube. That's its purpose. And to do that most efficiently, it needs to be as large as possible. And that being the case, you can then choose different metals. We make our PowerPoint resonators out of 100% copper. It's all machined in one piece, and it's got a cone, Well, why do we do a cone? The reason we use the cone is because I can drop the tip of that cone down into the tone hole chimney, you see, and then I've got a larger surface area than if it was just a flat resonator, and that's more reflective surface, so the horn operates a little more efficiently. And see, I'll be honest with you, my notes are sticking together. All right, now on the horns we manufacture, our Saks Gourmet horns, we use gold-plated solid copper Maestro resonators, and they've all got a little rib in them, they like waffled, and that increases the surface area. That's the reason we do that. We plate them with gold because gold doesn't corrode, so they'll stay good looking in your horn forever. Hello, Keith, glad you could join us. And Daniel, how you, buddy? So anyway, look at your resonators. Now, if you're going to restore an older instrument, and this makes me mad. I see guys that'll work on a Con 30M and they'll put in plastic domes, or they'll work on a Selmer Mark 6 before 90,000 and they'll put in plastic domes. Well, Selmer never used plastic. They used nylon resonators and nickel-plated domes. So y'all watch that. It makes me mad for people not to do it right. Now, I'm not saying that with customers' permission, I hadn't put in bigger resonators than the horn originally came with. Hell, I put big resonators in Bishers all the time. Just have to modify the snap just a little bit. All right, so we decided on the pads. We decided on the resonator, and it's up to the technician to individually fit the resonator to the tone holes. This is very important. Now, if your technician is just taking pads out of a drawer and he takes a 40 millimeter pad and it's already got a one size all fit resonator on it already, that may not be the optimum size for your horn. So talk to your technician about that. They're probably going to charge you a little more to do that, but it's well worth it, because if you get big, proper resonators in your horn, it will play so much more efficiently. You can play softer pianissimos and much lighter fortissimos, and it'll look good too. All right, so we want to now what we call dry fit the pads to the cups. Okay, that means we got the horn completely disassembled. We got the springs out, because anytime you repad a saxophone, this is the perfect time to replace all those springs. And in some of my personal horns, as I repad them, I've been putting gold-plated springs in them bad boys. And it sure does look good. So, at any rate, your technician should then take each individual cup and the pads. Now we stock here at Sax Gourmet World Headquarters, I stock pads from 6.5 millimeters up to, I think, 80 millimeters in half-millimeter increments. And, you know, I may have a pad chart and it tells me what size pad that, Selma Mach 7 takes. Jason, you're more than welcome. And some of my private students are going to be studying with you over at Loyola. Hold their feet to the fire, buddy. I know you will. But anyway, the technician should be seeing what fits. Now, let's say that we've got the F cup of a Mark 7 tenor, and I think that's 42 millimeters on all the pad charts. I may be wrong about that, but that's about right. So the technician may select a 42 millimeter and stick it in that empty cup, and it fits pretty good. But here's the thing. Can you spin that pad? Now, there's no glue in there yet. Can you spin that pad? If you can, that ain't the right size pad. I don't care what the damn chart says. What we usually do, if the chart calls for a 42, and it's 42 will pretty much cover, we'll put a 42.5 in there. Now, I'm gonna tell you that there's usually enough flexibility in good quality pads to where a 42.5 will go in there, and you will have the slightest little bit of fluff, a very slight amount, around the edges of the cup. That's good. Because you want that thing to fit tight. If the edges of your pad, the shoulders of the pad, don't actually touch the edges of the cup, they're almost there, but not completely, then what's going to happen over time, even if you stabilize the felt with epoxy, is that felt, which was nice and fat when you installed it, but it'll droop a little bit. Well, we don't want that. Let's see, Eric, I can't read your whole message. I see that Cliff said something, and I always listen to Cliff. I've still got tools I bought from Cliff, as a matter of fact. If a pad fit right, it would. I don't know. That's all I can read on my screen. But anyway, that's the way we do it. And so it's in that good flat cup, and it's fitting good and tight. Those of you who speak German know who's good and tight. Those of you who know me, you've heard me use that expression. All right, so now we're going to install the resonators. Most of our resonators we install with a through rivet, which we flare. It holds them on there good and tight. Now, I've also got for the custom. Now our PowerPoint resonators all have screws, washers and screws, and they fit flat up against the back. But some of the older Selmer pads use that. There's several different methods. We also have some screws and little thin washers that we can adapt, that it should take 3 good wraps on your palm. Yes, Eric Satterley, once again, I don't know if y'all can read this or not, but everybody ought to listen to Eric Satterley, because he's my friend. And everybody ought to be polite to Mr. Satterley, or you're going to answer to me. But Eric Satterley is one of the greatest repairmen that ever lived, and he's my buddy. He's a fine man, and don't you forget it. All right, so anyway, you're right, that it ought to be good and tight, All right, now, we're going to install the resonators by screws or by flaring the rivet or whatever system. And now it's time to affix those pads with resonators into the cups. Okay, now here you want to get some flake shellac. And you can buy that from most of the supply houses. And by the way, anybody that wants to like this presentation or share it is welcome to do so. But if you don't have flake shellac, all you've got is stick shellac, then you can grind that up in a food processor to a powder. Flake shellac's little thin flakes. And we're going to use that, and I'll tell you how in a minute. And when people say, wait a minute, why are you using shellac? I don't use shellac, that's the old-fashioned way. No, we use hot glue at our shop. Are you kidding me? You use hot glue. Look, you take that glue gun, and you put a bead in there and all that, and suddenly you want to spread it out evenly over the cup. You can't do it. It ain't going to do it. But if I take some flake shellac, here's the way we do it at our shop. We take flake shellac, we mix it up with denatured alcohol until we get a mixture that's about the consistency of, say, 30 weight motor oil. We take some of those little artist brushes, you know, the kind that you get 100 of them for $1 at the dollar store, because we're going to throw them away. We take that brush and we paint the inside of the cup completely, just like I was applying a coat of paint. And I'm talking about completely means the edges too. Yes, the edges. Then we put the cup down and we take the pad and we paint the back of the pad completely. And I want to pay particular attention to where the screw or rivet or whatever fastener you got is there. All right. But just like I was painting it, because that's literally what I'm doing. And then I'm going to put the pad in the cup. All right? Okay. And it ought to go down. It ought to sit flat. It ought to sit pretty level. Now, we're going to give it the final touch in a little bit, but we want it to be pretty level. All right. So now we're going to assemble the horn. And you're at the point where the key feet come up against the adjusting bar on the upper stack and the lower stack. This is the time that you may want to apply some silencing material. And I'll tell you something that I like is I've got some ultra thin, super high quality pig skin, and I'll cut a little tiny strip and I'll wrap it around that bar one time. I don't want to thick something. I just want it to make it quiet. And then later I may put something on the feet of the keys, sorbothane, pool table felt, I don't know, different stuff. All right, so anyway, we got this thing on there, pads in the cup. We put our silence and stuff on there. Hadn't put the horn together yet, but we've already, done all the metal work we're gonna do. We have swedged, we have aligned the post, all that good stuff. Be sure to dress the end of the keys after you swedge it. Be sure you dress it where it's nice and flat. All right, now, then you got to get your pad irons out. What? Pad irons? What in the hell's pad irons, Steve? All right. The leather, even on the best quality pads in the world, which I'd like to think are the ones that say Saks Gourmet on the back, but the leather on there, if you will, spritz it with a little water and take a pad iron. Now, I got my pad irons, well, I've got a whole bunch of them. I got some I got from Ferree. I got some I got from BAM Tool in Germany. I got some I got from Carl Votal. They all got a hole in the middle that will clear the resonator. This is most important. I'm gonna spritz the pad with water, and I am then going to heat up that pad iron. Now, not so hard that you burn the pad, okay? You just gotta learn by experience. And then I'm gonna iron it where that leather is as taut as a drum head. It ought to be taut. But here's another secret that we do at our shop, and I'd encourage you to do it. When we spritz the water on it, and there's a pad sitting there, it's got a fine mist of water, not too much. I then take some Mojo's Never Stick pad powder, and I brush a little of that on there, not much, but a little bit. And then when I iron it, it irons the Mojo's into the pores of the kangaroo leather, and that baby will never stick. It will never stick. And Mojo's is it's a unique product. We're the only ones that sell it because we make it right here in New Orleans. And I'll tell you, so you understand how it works, the primary ingredient in Mojo's is Teflon. And Teflon, and as a matter of fact, it's food grade Teflon too. I get a little certificate when I buy it from DuPont that says you can eat this stuff, it won't hurt you. Not that I do. But that stuff is ultra fine, it gets into the pores, and it's forever. It's extremely durable. So, you know, if you'll keep the surface of your pad clean, that Mojo's will be down there and it'll make your pad shed moisture instead of absorbing moisture. And you don't you dare ever use any kind of pad powder that's made of cornstarch, and I'm not going to call names, talc or something like that, because all the hell they do is they absorb the water and it builds up there on the top of the pad. But Mojo's is made of Teflon and a bunch of other ingredients. And I ain't going to tell you what they are. A certain prominent saxophone player, I mean, this guy had won a bunch of Grammys. I'd given him a bag of Mojo's. He was going to other countries, and as he was going through customs, he had that bag of Mojo's in his case. And they thought he had some high quality nose candy in there. And he was trying to explain that it was for a saxophone, and they actually tested it before they let him go on through. All right, so now put it together. Everything ought to fit tight. Regulate the height of your keys by you bend those feet a little bit. Don't use too much stuff on the feet. Use sorbethane and they won't flutter. Good deal. Everybody knows what they're doing. And those springs. Now, I want you, if you hadn't ever really thought about springs, go to my nationmusic.com site and go to the article section and read the article called The Rite of Springs. And it's going to tell you everything you need to know about springs. And there is a lot to know about how you should tension them and the arc they should be in and all that good stuff. Always use the best quality springs you can find. The best ones you can find. All right, so we got it put together, but don't hook up the springs. Don't hook up the springs. All right, over each key now, once again, I'm going to make it a little moist. I'm going to take my pad iron, again, the one that just barely clears the resonator, hold the key down, take the pad iron, warm it up, where it'll move a little bit, do that, and so suddenly, ooh, baby, everything looking good and looking dead flat. Yeah, okay, now, okay, we lost the signal there for just a second. Get your leak light out. You got it on a saxophone work fixture. I don't sell those out to because they're great. I've got 3 of them in my shop. But at any rate, turn the lights off, put the leak light in. The keys don't have spring tension on them. The spring's not hooked up. And so those keys ought to drop down to the tone holes by gravity. Now, those fixtures, so you can rotate 360 degrees. And if it doesn't seal pretty well by gravity alone, you ain't done your job right, or your technician hadn't. And don't tell me it can't be done, because I do it every day. All right, so we're satisfied with the gravity fit of our pads, and they're still flat now. Okay, so now we're going to that final thing is we're going to take, I use those little wooden wedges that I buy them from Free. You get a bag of about 1 million for $1. So they cost next to nothing. They're different thicknesses. And I put it on the key feet. So I wedge the keys down with a light pressure. With a light pressure. Not a head. Don't be like some kind of amateur putting a deep seat in a damn pad. They ought to seal with a very light pressure. All right. And then we have a commercial fabric steamer. Like if you go to a dry cleaner, you'll see they got a big thing on the wand, it's got a big hose on it. And you know, they're steaming in there. I got one of those. It's made by Conair, and I bought it at Walmart. It cost me $50, I think. It wasn't much. And anyway, so I got all the keys wedged down. And I'm going to put the hose in the bell, horns on the fixture, and I'm going to let it steam for no more than 2 minutes. Because if you steam it for more than 2 minutes, what's going to happen is that you're going to overcook the pads. But at any rate, once you do that and let it cool, because it'll damn sure burn your hand if you touch it, and it won't be hot. But once you take your wedges out and then let everything relax overnight, and make sure it's stable. Check it again with a light, dark room, light pressure. If it's good, then the customer gets it back. If it's not good, fix what needs fixing. But you'll notice at no point in the proceedings did I talk about this business about floating the pads, because I told you to paint a thin layer of shellac on a level key cup and a thin layer of shellac completely on the back. I did. And if you have it on, and I used to do this, I did used to do this. You know, we'd put maybe a 1/16 of an inch of shellac in the bottom of the key cup, something like, not much, but you know, a layer of it. And then we would warm everything up and we'd let the pad do around like that. And ultimately you can get it to seat. But if you do your work right on the metal work, you don't have any problems. You're not. So all of these things are stuff that you need to be discussing with the technician who's going to do the work. And, you know, this method that I've outlined, and by the way, this, if you didn't take notes, this presentation is in written form on my nationofmusic.com site in the article section. But anyway, this is how we do it. And I've been doing this since right after the earth cooled. I'm 68 years old now, and I repadded my first saxophone when I was 14. Didn't do a very good job, but you know, you gotta start somewhere. But if you'll do it this way, or get your technician to do it this way, and discuss it with them, see, have that talk with the technician. Believe me, these technicians want to do the best job they possibly can. They do. They're nice people. And, you know, but they need to have feedback from you. It's just like going to see your doctor. You know, I had my annual physical last month, and, you know, I was sitting there talking to Dr. Bonner, my internist, and, you know, telling Dr. Bonner everything's going on with me and what I would like to do, what's the problem, and all that. They need your input, and it's on you to talk to the technician about it. It's not on the technician to, you know, make you answer 5 million questions. So that's the talk you ought to have with the technician. If you want to discuss some of this and have a talk with me, you are welcome to call me anytime during business hours. I'm happy to take your call and answer your question. I never check voicemail because I'm not going to be a slave to voicemail. If you miss me and you get that message, then just call me again, because I'm on the phone with somebody else, or I'm with a customer listening to them tell me what they want me to do to their saxophone. I enjoy giving these seminars. I hope you all have learned something. A lot of my good friends have joined us for this, and I'm extremely honored that they have. So you folks, now I believe that Donna has got a seminar coming up about just a few minutes on her site, and Donna Schwartz got a lot of good stuff to teach. So y'all go learn from Donna about playing the saxophone. She does a great job. So I'm here. Let me know when I can help. I thank you all very much. Everybody, remember, practice long tones every day. Remember to keep your reed wet, and always, always, always play sax gourmet. Why? Because sax gourmet always plays best. Goodbye for now.